Wagwan people, Leo here from Creative Tech Lab. We are back today with one of the videos that you guys have been asking for a very long time. We have a comparison. We have the Sony A6400 versus the RX100, what seems to be the battle for the compact setup, the creator setup. So let's get into it and talk about the different things. I have 15 different points, so let's stick around and see how everything compares. But first and foremost, welcome to Creative Tech Lab. My name is Leo. This is the YouTube channel to accompany our website, creativetechlab.com. If this is your first time here, welcome. Talk a lot about run and gun videography here on the channel. And also thank you to everybody that has subscribed already. We're getting close to that 1,000 subscribers, so I greatly appreciate every single one of you that has been here thus far. All right, so the Sony RX100 Mark VII versus the A6400. So for the few people that do follow me here on the channel know that the RX100 series is one of my favorite series. It's what got me started here on YouTube. This little point and shoot thing is almost like a pocket alpha camera. However, there are a ton of people at this particular price point that think that you're better off going with something like this, a Sony A6400. So we have a couple of housekeeping notes that we do need to get out of the way and just how they compare before we start breaking down the full-on comparisons there. So the RX100 is a pocket camera, a point and shoot camera obviously, with an equivalent focal length of 24 to 200 millimeters. So it's a very wide range there, and then the aperture is variable, ranging from f2.8 all the way up to 4.5. Your A6400 is an interchangeable lens camera. You're gonna have an APS-C sensor on this camera, so a much bigger sensor. So with that being said, I just kind of wanted to get into how I decided to come across on this particular comparison. Because this is 24 to 200 millimeters, I wanted to find a lens that was most comparable, and then I said f2.8 to 4.5. There are a couple of different lens combinations that come close to that. The one that I thought was the most comparable, or the one that I thought that somebody should buy if they were to get the A6400 and just get one lens, is the Sony 18 to 105, which equivalent, that's about 27 to 150 something roundabout there. That's the closest thing that I found that matches up to the Sony RX100 in terms of focal length. So that was my thinking in terms of just a lens combination to find out that you could best match to this. I do want to say that there are a couple, you can do whatever lens combination that you feel is best for your situation, which we'll get into in a little bit in terms of the differences between these two cameras. But as far as just a fair on, flat on, head-to-head combination, I thought this was the best lens to go ahead to compare to this. The other option would have been the kit lens, which is equivalent 24 to 70. I think it's a 16 to 50 or 16 to 55 or whatever, which would be equivalent to a 24 to 70, which match up a little bit better with the older RX100 series. So first and foremost, we need to talk about pricing. The RX100 comes in at $1,200, at least at the time of this shooting. It's been changing back and forth with China tariffs. It actually went up for a little while at $1,300, but I see it came back down to $1,200. Now this is gonna be your lens, your everything in there. And I think that's part of the reason why people like to compare these two cameras, because this comes in at $900 for the body, and then you could choose the lens combination that you want to. The kit lens that comes with it is only an additional $100, which I said was a equivalent 24 to 70. So that kit lens comes in at around, totally around $1,000. For this setup here, this 18 to 105 lens is coming in at $650 new. So you'd be looking at roughly around about $1,500 there. However, you can find this lens used. I've seen it used for anywhere from $400 to $500. So that brings you a little bit closer to the price range of the RX100 there. And you do have an interchangeable lens camera. You could change it out whenever it is that you feel like it. The other option there that I did think about potentially for this to match closest to the RX100 was to go ahead and get the kit lens. And then they do have another zoom lens that's around $200. It's a 55 to 200, which would be around 70, I guess the 300 zoom equivalent there. For the APS-C, that's around $200. So for a total of $1,200, you could get two lenses and a body to cover your exact range. Now the aperture is a little bit different, but we'll get into that, sensor size and low light and all those different things, but you could go that route as well. But again, if you just wanted one lens to compare, I think this would be the best thing. So pricing is a little bit tricky because obviously this is modular, but you could definitely kit this lens out or kit the A6400 out and get a better setup there or what something for your needs. So I'm gonna give pricing to the A6400 just because you have the option to go a little bit cheaper there if you wanted to. All right, next up, let's talk size and portability. This one almost isn't fair. So most people, I think it's a matter of perspective. A lot of people coming from bigger DSLR cameras are just like, oh, the Sony mirrorless cameras are so small. I can tell you, as somebody that started on this seems huge compared to this. Now, both of these are relatively compact setups. Obviously, this lens is gonna be a lot bigger. I do have, hold up. I don't have the kit lens, but the smallest lens that I do have, that would be the closest thing just to show you size-wise. I do have this wide-angle lens that I'm testing here from Lowlight, and you could see that's a pretty small lens, so it kind of looks like, I mean, it doesn't look like it's that much bigger. Here's a big deal. This lens is retractable. So if you're out walking round and about or whatever, this actually fits into my pocket. As you can see here, I'm wearing relatively fitted jeans and this fits right into my pocket. This is not going to fit into your pocket. Even without the lens on it there, this is not fitting into your pocket like this is. I can tell you as a dad, when it is that you're walking around or when you have kids or as an actual family camera, you could just slip this into your pocket and go wherever you need to go to. Then you take it out, you could zoom or whatever there. It actually is a lot more convenient in terms of size and portability. So size and portability 100% goes to the RX100. It's not even close. All right, now let's get into the next category we need to talk about is battery life. This one also isn't close either, but for the other side. So in terms of batteries here, the batteries in the A6400 are the NPFW50 batteries, these Sony batteries here. Now, some people, again, coming from bigger cameras like your A7 IIIs or anything that uses the Z batteries might think that the battery life on this is a little bit worse. Obviously, this is a smaller battery. But compared to the RX100 battery, you need, like, to get through a full day of shooting when you're not able to plug in, these little batteries, these MP-BX1 batteries, you run through these like crazy, especially if you're shooting 4K or any high frame rates or whatever. When I'm traveling, I have 3 to 4 batteries with me. Even though a lot of people talk about the battery life for this particular battery style on this camera, with the new chipset on the A6400 and some of the newer cameras as well, Sony has really improved their battery life over those cameras. So even if you're used to, say, the A6300 or the A6500 or whatever, battery life on the A6400 has improved over those cameras. However, if it is that you're out vlogging or traveling or anything like that, the battery life compared to these two here is not even close. A6400 wins that category. Next category we have up here is going to be the screens. So the screens here look relatively similar. They're relatively the same. However, one thing that I did notice, especially out when I was doing some of the comparison shots for this video, is the screen on the A6400 is a lot brighter, and I wear polarized sunglasses and I can actually see the screen of the A6400, and that was one of my pain points with either RX100 screens. Sometimes if you put screen protector over the screens there, you're able to see the screen a little bit better, but even without the screen protectors on there, I'm able to see the screen of the A6400 a lot better than I can on the RX100. So that was a welcome change here. Also, the colors to me seem a little bit more accurate on the A6400 screen versus on the RX100 screen. So again, point to the A6400 over the RX100 for screens. For all my vloggers out there and really video people, audio we're gonna call a tie. I didn't really see any big differences in terms of the preamps once I had mics plugged in to these two cameras, so that's not even something there. In terms of microphones and preamps, I'm just talking, again, having a mic plugged into it. Tie for that particular category. Okay, autofocus. So autofocus here, very similar. If you know anything about these cameras, it's blazing fast autofocus here on either one of these. Now, The RX100 VII does have A9 flagship type autofocus on there, so it is a hair faster according to Sony, or is actually in terms of actual metrics. And then in video, you're gonna get continuous video eye autofocus on the RX100, as opposed to on the A6400 you get in video mode, you don't get eye, but you do get face tracking there. As you can see from my test here, just me on the road like I normally do, jumping in and out of focus, it's not that big of a difference. Neither of these are going to miss focus. As I was doing the test, I could see the box constantly around my face for the A6400, and the eye autofocus almost never missed. There's a couple times where the RX100 did switch from eye back to face, but it never lost me. As you can see me walking back and forth in and out of the frame, or jumping up and down into the frame like I was here. Neither of them were missing focus there. So yeah, you can see the I rolled the side-by-side shots as I'm talking about this. I guess in terms of actual technical specs, you could say point to the RX100, but in terms of actual usability, there's not that big of a difference in between the two cameras there. So we're gonna give the point to the RX100, but in terms of actual use cases there, it's really a tie. All right, let's talk about available resolutions and frame rates. These are almost identical as well on the camera. RX100 shoots in 4K up to 30 frames per second. Same thing here for the A6400. And then you could do up to 120 frames per second in full HD there. A6400 does have SNQ mode where you could shoot in some additional bursts of slow motion stuff, and the RX100 does have high frame rate modes where I think you could shoot up to 960 frames per second in HD. The quality does start to deteriorate a lot once it is that you start to do that. However, I'm gonna call that one a wash in terms of available frame rates there. You're very similar in terms of the use cases in both of these cameras. All right, low light capability. So you could see here, much bigger sensor on the A6400. So even though in my comparisons, I'm comparing the 18 to 105 f4, which is constant f4 throughout the entire focal length, and the RX100 does have the 2.8 at the wide end, and then at the lower end it starts to fall off to 3.5 very quickly, and then at the longest end it's up to 4.5 there. Even at f2.8 on the 1-inch smallest sensor, it does perform a little bit more similar to f4 on the bigger sensor. So here we're just out doing, I knew I had to do this video, so a couple weeks ago when we're out, I actually brought both cameras out with me. I was just doing some test shot in what I thought would be an applicable environment if you were just a hobbyist, or if you're just out vlogging late at night, or some content creator late at night or whatever. With no additional lights here, we're in a bar. This is just me taking stuff of the beers here, and you can see I did actually have to crank the ISO a lot higher on the RX100, and in my perception, I think the image quality and the low light quality, even at f4, is a lot better on the A6400. So as far as just straight head-to-head, and this isn't actually even a straight head-to-head comparison, if I was to put a f2.8 lens equivalent here on the A6400, it will perform better. So definitely low light performance hands down goes to the A6400. Not to mention that it is, even though we're trying to keep apples to apples as much as possible here, it is a interchangeable lens camera. So I have the Sigma f1.4, which would blow anything that the RX100 could do out the water. So low light capability definitely 100% goes to the A6400. All right, let's also talk about stabilization. So the RX100 VII, one of the welcome additions to it was steady shot in 4K, not active steady shot, but steady shot in 4K, which is some additional stabilization there. So vlogging with this is really, really stable. You probably for you guys that have seen me when I did the RX100 6 versus 7, you could see the walk-in test shots there. The A6400 does not have IBIS in-body stabilization there. However, this lens combination, the lens is stabilized there. So here you can see me walking. This is, both of them are in 4K, 24 frames per second. This is me just walking. I was actually going to do the thumbnail for this video. I just went ahead and got some walking head, just walking, talking head as you were walking there. This is also me holding both cameras here, just in traffic, just completely handheld there. It's gonna be pretty comparable there, even though this does not have IBIS in it with the stabilized lens on there. And I was holding, I guess, what would have been a little bit heavier setup because I had both cameras next to each other, but there's not very much shake in either one. I wouldn't say that this is gimbal-like in 4K. Active steady shot in HD though does come out to be a little bit smoother on the RX100. So in terms of just overall, I'm going to give a slight here to the RX100 because it's probably both lens and in-body stabilized there, but the A6400 with a stabilized lens does come really close there. But point still goes to the RX100 in terms of how they actually integrate steady shot into this camera, but just by a small hair. So overall focal length, obviously Sony knew what they were doing when they made this camera. It's a very usable focal length. 24 on the wide is great, all the way up to 200, and you could actually eke out a little bit more with clear image zoom. Boom, link up here if you don't know what clear image zoom is. It's one of the most amazing features on Sony cameras, but you can eke out a little bit more, even more than the 200, with clear image zoom on the long end on this camera. So focal length, that's great there. With this particular setup, we're at 18, so we're at 27, so a little bit tighter when it is that you're just holding it up there and trying to vlog, but still usable in my opinion. And then on the far end, we're at 150, roundabout there. So still very usable focal length on the wide end as well, and then you could use the clear image zoom to push in a little bit more. Focal length is still going to go to the RX100 though, because it is a little bit wider and a little bit longer on both ends, and again that fits into your pocket. So focal length to the RX100. Next category we need to talk about is ease of use. Now, as far as actual modes and ease of use and the menu system and all that, they're almost identical. I think it's more of a perception thing there, where this is a big point and shoot camera, and there's a zoom and there's a focus ring, most things of which are on the RX100 as well. However, point to the RX100, it just seems a little less intimidating. It's technically a tie, but what I would say is that just there again, perception wise, if you just handed somebody this little thing, I think they'd be quicker willing to figure this out than what this seems like a big old camera next to it. All right, and the main thing, the thing that I think is most important is just overall image quality. The RX100 is amazing little point and shoot, a little pocket off or whatever, but the bigger sensor on the A6400 makes a huge difference, not to mention all the different lens combos that you could use. But even with this particular lens setup here, the images that I'm getting out of this, I just like it a lot better than what I'm getting out of the RX100, and that is to be expected. Like I said before, the sensor is a lot bigger on this. This is more of a pro grade type camera and a pro grade setup, so you are getting a more capable camera here. So overall image quality definitely goes to the A6400. Even with similar log profiles and picture profiles, you can match everything up that you need to with the RX100 and the A6400. Overall image quality here, I'm still gonna say is better on the A6400. So that's something to take into consideration. All right, so who's the winner of this thing here? So of the categories that we come up, and I swear to God, I actually didn't plan it this way. I had 15 categories, I actually cut out 3 because they actually got a little bit redundant. Actually, from what we've gone through here, it's 5 and 5 with 2 ties. So it actually becomes, in terms of these metrics here, which are not scientific by any way, shape, or form, this is just my opinion, it actually comes down to a tie in between the 2 cameras. But regardless of who won what or whatever, this is kind of what I want to say. As much as people want to compare these 2 cameras, I don't think they are for the same use case, or technically not for the same use case. Here's why. I think it really depends on who you are and what you're going to be using this camera for, which is going to make the best fit for you. So the type of people, there's a couple of different people that ask me about this camera because they know that, or these cameras because they know that I have both. So the first set is just content creators, people like me that are doing YouTube or looking to get into vlogging or anything like that. And I would say it depends on what you want. My recommendation would be to go, if it is that you're a content creator, My recommendation would be to go with the A6400 and this particular lens setup. It's not perfect in terms of the wide angle or the size or whatever, but it is gonna give you the best image quality, and it is gonna be something that you can grow into and have different lens setups there as you choose to. So you don't, if it is that you're just using it for vlogging and you might not need the wide end, but then you do need to travel and do some stuff. If you're gonna be creating content specifically, I'm gonna go with the A6400 over the RX100, with one exception while it is that we're still talking about this particular person. Because the interchangeable lens camera, even with the smaller setups, just seems like such a bigger setup, you might feel a little bit more comfortable with just a point and shoot, especially if you don't have a gorilla pod on this and you're just holding this up like so. This feels a lot less intimidating and starting with a point and shoot camera, and it's a very capable point and shoot camera. So if you're really shy and you're gonna be vlogging in public, then maybe you might want to consider the RX100 and then getting an interchangeable lens camera down the line. But I think if you're just getting started out and you want one all-in-one solution, then A6400 for my content creators. The second person that asks me about this a lot are people that have bigger full frame setups like a A7 III or A7R3 or whatever, and they're looking for something that is a little bit more portable, and they're like, well, to those people, the A6400 seems like a nice portable camera as a second cam, as a B cam or something like that. If portability is what you're looking for and you're just looking for something that you can stick in your pocket in certain situations, 100% for those people, go ahead and get the RX100, because this actually will fit into your pocket. You're more likely to have it with you, kind of like you're gonna have it with your cell phone. Now for those people, there is some advantage that the A6400 does use the same mount, and some of the lens setups that you already have, you could just stick onto there. But I think for a lot of those people that link me and ask me about those things, they're still looking at it as it's still a hassle to have an interchangeable lens camera. Whereas if they were to get something like this, you could just stick it into your pocket or purse and just go. So for those people, RX100. The third person I'm gonna say is kind of somebody like myself that may be doing a mix of different things, or is looking for a family camera that's better than their cell phone, or a travel camera or something like that, or things that you just want to take everywhere with you. For those people as well, I'm gonna say RX100, and well, toss up. But the fact that you can just take this wherever you can go. You can take this to stadiums, you could take it to concerts, you could take it to a lot of museums and stuff. They're not gonna stop you and say, hey, this is just they just think it's a regular point and shoot camera. I do think this becomes a better solution for a dad camera or a family camera or whatever, whereas you're less likely to pull this out and you're more likely to have this with you. So that's my thoughts. You let me know what you think in terms of RX100 versus A6400. Is that something that you're considering? Hopefully this video can help you make a more informed decision. This is why I did this, because there were, again, a lot of people asking me about making that particular decision as a second camera or even as a first camera. So if this video helped you in any way, shape or form, please go ahead, drop it a like, share it with your friends that may have similar thoughts. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. I would greatly appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace. Bam!